Hi, my name is Vankeisha Harrison, and I'm a student here at Canyon University. This is my disposition assignment for Education 525. One disposition that I possess that will make me successful in the classroom is having integrity. Ensuring integrity starts with me being honest and having a moral code to follow throughout my life inside and outside of the classroom. Showing up to work on time, putting in 100% every day. Even when it's hard and you don't want to, you have to put in that 100% every day. I have shown myself to be professional by adhering to the rules and regulations here at this university, as well as in my work environment. The best way to show integrity is by modeling appropriate behaviors for my students to emulate. I will treat them with kindness and respect and expect nothing else in return. Another disposition is creating a safe learning environment where my students can learn. When forming a safe learning environment, I have to start with creating positive interactions between myself and the students that I have pleasure to engage with. I feel that building positive relationships with students as well as their parents is the foundation for an effective learning environment. Having the compassion and understanding of each student as an individual has shown me how to provide an environment where students can feel safe and loved. And lastly, being sensitive to the individual needs of my students and celebrating diversity. That is very important. I believe it's extremely important to get to know my students and their cultural background. Also, educating my scholars on differences in cultures can help them understand each other and respect each other in the classroom learning environment. Students may not know and I may not be even aware of different cultures. So educating my students on the different cultures that are represented in my classroom is going to be very important for them to get to know each other and know the differences of each other, because we're all different and we all grew up different, so we have to celebrate our differences. Dispositions that I need to work on before entering the classroom. One area that I can work on is continuing to understand and be sensitive to social needs of the students. Previously, I worked for a nonprofit organization, Early Head Start program, and we represented a lot of low-income families. And so I had to really be understanding and get to know my parents. It was very hard sometimes because I too myself grew up in a single parent household, a low income family, but the way I was raised and the way I grew up in my household is completely different than a lot of these other children are raised. And so I have to be aware that we all have differences in the way that we run our households. And so I have to have compassion for the students, and developing personal relationships to me, actually talking with the parents, is going to help me understand them better. So I have to remain sensitive at all times to the needs of all my students and remember that we are not all the same and we all are different. Utilizing data to make informed decisions is something that I have to learn before entering the classroom. I can differentiate based on learning abilities of the students, but creating lessons based on data collected is something that I'm not familiar with. I have to brainstorm strategies to improve students' achievement in designated areas. I will uphold this in the classroom by researching and collaborating with other teachers and coming up with a plan of action. Since I will be the one responsible for modifying the instruction, I have to be able to understand the data. I am hopeful that my school will allow me to have opportunities to collaborate with others, and I can set specific measurable goals to determine whether or not intervention is needed. One thing for sure, I'll not be afraid to ask for help. Understanding cultural, gender, and learning differences is something that I have to continue to educate myself on. Each classroom will be different and adjustments will always need to be made. I have an obligation to meet all diverse needs of my students represented in the environment. Different backgrounds, ethnicities, and cultures will be celebrated and respected. Many students with disabilities need accommodations and/or modifications daily, like daily tasks and assessments. An accommodation that may be used in the classroom could be extra time for testing or an audio version of a book that I can provide to complete an assignment. Modifications can be extra help from myself or alternative tests that meets the individual needs of the students. Some preconceived notions that we may have about students and their culture or their environment can also create a potential bias in the classroom. So I have to remain non-biased and not limit my students in their capabilities. Also understand that all students' learning abilities are different, and that we're all from different walks of life and we all have different things to offer. So basically getting to know my students on a personal level can help eliminate this bias. How do I anticipate using feedback from my annual performance evaluations, observations, and data on student performance to adjust my dispositions and teaching practices to benefit learning? I literally plan on using every type of advice that I could get because I'm going to be a new teacher in a different environment. I am used to working with younger students in ages 2 years old and 3 years old. So for me, working with students K through 5 is going to be different for me. So I welcome all feedback from colleagues and superiors. They are very welcome. And when I know exactly what I need to work on, that's when the learning starts for me. If I know what I need to work on, then I know how to better myself and better my students' learning. Taking the feedback and altering my approaches if needed will ultimately help create a better learning environment for all of my students. So I'm very much so going to be an active learner as always. Have a blessed day. Thank you.